Nej, bara lock som har den inte bort. Ah! Ah! I just started one of my favorite races. It's probably one of the toughest 5Ks, and although the start here on the gravel road is fast, it will quickly get brutal. It's a 2-lap course with lots of deep marshes to pass in the Norwegian forest. I first ran this race 3 years ago and then finished in second place, and wanting to win this race has been in my mind for the last 3 years, and I'm really motivated to give it another go. Directly from the start here, there's one guy that gets a big gap, but I'm not too worried about that because there's always some youngsters starting out this race way too hard, and as soon as we head into the forest they have to slow down a lot. So I'm hoping this is the case this time as well, and I'm just trying to stay relaxed at this point, settling in third position behind this guy and save as much energy as possible for the brutal part of the course that's soon to come. And heading into the forest, we quickly catch up with the leader. And as soon as we hit the first super wet marsh area here, we pass him and immediately get a gap. So now it's just me and this guy in front alone in lead, and this is just as I had hoped it would turn out. My plan before the race was actually to stay in second place for as long as possible, because a mistake I made in previous years is getting into the lead early in the race. And the thing is, when you run in the tough marsh areas, if you stay behind someone, you can see the places that guy in front of you gets stuck, and try to avoid that and save a lot of energy, which I have failed brutal on the last years and got stuck and then got passed and beaten. So hopefully I can do this right this time. A big challenge with this race is pacing yourself correctly, since big parts of it is trying to survive in the deep wet marshes, where even if you push yourself really hard, the pace will be slow. So you can't just check your pace like in a regular road 5K. So what I do to make sure that this effort is sustainable is to go with a combination of my feeling and checking my heart rate quite often. And when checking my heart rate so far in the race, I could see that following the leader did not push me to my absolute limit. I have a quite low max heart rate of 178 beats per minute, but I know that it is possible for me to average around 165 beats per minute on an effort of this length. So seeing my heart rate in the low 160s and managing to stay with the leader made my confidence high. But there were some unexpected things to come in this race. It's not only the tough wet marshes that makes this race a brutal 5K. Here the course also goes off trail up a small hill in the forest, and this is my favorite kind of running. So I'm really enjoying myself in second place here, still feeling confident, and right now my plan is to try to do an attack on the second lap if I still feel good, and see if I can get a gap then. When I first ran this race 3 years ago, it was just days before I became a dad to my twin girls, and although my life focus shifted completely that day, I knew that staying in shape through these hectic years with small kids was going to be really important for me. So I set it as a goal, with my now severely limited time to spend on training and sleeping, still do enough to stay competitive in this race. Since it's a race that only takes 50 minutes to travel from where I live, and a race that I really enjoy and look forward to each year. And this race has been in the back of my mind a lot during these last 3 years, and have been one of the things motivating me to do what I know is so important for me, to get in at least some training each day, even when I've been so tired from just living life and just wanted to lay on the sofa. So that makes me extra happy to be in this position, in second place, still having a good chance to finally win this race. During this part I just tried to save as much energy as possible, still staying close to the leader. And I've actually already started thinking of where I should try to attack on the second lap, but soon my tactic would have to change. There the guy that was in the lead gets stuck in the mud, and I found myself in the lead, and I was really hesitant of what I was going to do, since I was so set in my mind of trying to get a gap first on the second lap. But I decided to try to increase the pace slightly and see if I can get a small gap through this rough marsh, since having him right in my back will just give him an advantage. And as you can see, I'm struggling myself, almost getting completely stuck in the deep mud. But I managed to keep my lead through this challenging part, and getting out to this more runnable section again, I see that I have about a 5-second gap. And when I'm getting out on this gravel road, I look back a lot and try to just keep my gap to around 5 seconds without pushing too hard. And then my new plan is to push really hard in the next brutal marsh section to see if I can open up a decent gap before the first lap ends. As you can see, I'm almost drowning here, and the guy behind me gets a chance to get a bit closer, and he's right behind me, but I push myself through, and I'm determined to do what I can to get a good gap in this tough marsh, since I think this is the part of the course that suits me the best. With my background as an elite orienteering runner, I'm used to running through places like this that most runners don't have much experience of. So I try to push really hard here, maybe a bit more that is sustainable to keep the whole race, to get that good gap. And you really have to fight for every single meter in this marsh, since your feet are sinking deep down in the wet, muddy marsh. But looking back, I can see that my gap is slightly increasing, which gives me a confidence boost. I'm done with the first lap of 2, and I think I have about a 20-second gap at this point. So I have never been in a better position to take the win in this race before. But I try to say to myself that I'm still only halfway done, and there's a lot of work left to be done. And this second lap would turn out to be way more challenging than I could have anticipated. But here on the gravel road section, I just try to keep a decent pace while still saving some energy for the brutal part to come. Okay, so soon here, back in the forest, the race took a dramatic turn for me. I tried to push hard through the mud here, but all of a sudden my foot gets stuck and I twist my arm in some weird way, causing me to dislocate my shoulder. It's really painful, but I can feel that it's only subluxated and not fully out of its joints, so I tried to put my physio skills to use and drag it into place. It feels so weird looking back at this, because seeing the footage I barely stopped, but in my memory I stood there for at least 5 seconds trying to get my shoulder into place and thought that my race was over. I guess time must have slowed down for me when it happened, and continuing to run here, it's really painful, and I've had to slow down a bit for a while, but I have decided to keep going. So I have genetically really unstable shoulder joints and have dislocated them many times, so I know from experience that as long as I don't fall again or rotate it in a weird position again, it won't get worse from continuing to run. So I try to stop thinking of the pain and finish what I've started with this race, but I'm a bit stressed that I lost some time on that part and that the guy in second place is getting closer to me. Here you see another big challenge with the second lap of this course. Since this is a 2-lap race, so when being in front you start lapping a lot of people on the second lap. And it's not always that easy finding good ways around the people you lap. And one could think that this would be a frustrating thing with this race, but it's actually something I really like, since it adds another challenge and you have to keep your concentration all the time finding good ways to pass the people you lap. And also, nothing makes me more happy than seeing so many kids out here running. Kids being physically active, playing in the mud, in the forest as their Sunday activity, I think is way too rare. So yeah, seeing this just gives me extra motivation, and hopefully it can be motivating for them to see us grown-ups still having fun playing in the mud. Several of the kids I passed also tried to follow me for some meters, which was extra fun to see. Another challenge with this second lap is that these deep marsh areas are even tougher to pass than during the first lap, because because so many people has been running through them, making them even deeper. Just look at the scene right there. You don't see this that often in a running race. I just love this race. I look back and I can still see the guy in second place, so I really gotta push hard all the way to the finish to hopefully get the win. Last really tough marsh area of the day, and I'm so afraid of getting completely stuck here and getting caught by the guy behind. So I do my absolute best pushing through this area and manage to keep an okay pace, and although it is really tough at this part of the race and my legs are just screaming at me to stop, I keep fighting because I really want to stay in the leading position and finally win this race. Although it in a way means nothing, and most people don't care at all who wins a local crazy race like this. What means something to me is having goals to work towards and challenging myself. That's why it was so rewarding to push with everything I got up this last hill, knowing that I put in a lot of work these last 3 years in a hectic life to keep in a good enough shape to win a race like this. Thanks Coros for continuing to support this channel and creating this great new Watch the Pace Pro for us runners. There's a link in the description to check it out. If you want to see me trying to win a brutal ultra marathon, you can click here. Thanks for watching and hope you get to go for a run today.